Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Platinum Talks. This is Mark Lewis from Platinum. Today, I have the distinguished opportunity to be live with you with Dr. Mark Sanna from Breakthrough Coaching. Dr. Mark, how you doing today?
All right, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Did you have a great holiday?
I did. It's a little R&R. Good to catch up.
That's good. A little time to relax and take a little to get back on the horse there. Well,
Right
today
on.
you've got a great series for us, the posture longevity connection. So we're looking forward to hearing that. And if you can't get online or can't do that, we are going to record this and send this out. But without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mark.
All right. Hey, thanks so much. And thanks for the team at Platinum System for bringing me here to your audience. And I'm going to share something I'm very, very passionate about. And it's about confidently communicating chiropractic with a specific focus on posture. And Mark, I may have shared with you in the past, I'm a second generation chiropractor, and my dad is a chiropractor. I think he's in his 58th year of being a chiropractor, which is amazing. And way back when he first started practicing, he had something in his practice that most chiropractors did, but that you don't see very often right now. And I'll tell you what it was. It was an eye hook screw in the ceiling with a piece of string and a fishing weight down at the bottom. And of course, that was a plumb line.
Oh, yeah.
And part of every evaluation from a chiropractic perspective was to take a look at posture and how somehow that lost its central focus in the chiropractic evaluation. It kind of perplexed me. And so it set me on a quest to really take a look at the impact of posture on quality of life. And when we talk to our patients, oftentimes in chiropractic, it's easy to get down rabbit holes in terms of terminology, in terms of concepts, and something that we all can talk about that patients instantly get is posture. But as I began unpacking posture and looking at the research, I became really astounded at the support and the research connecting posture and longevity, and the converse, poor posture and diminished longevity, poor posture and a diminished quality of life. And so part of what I'm going to share with you in this conversation, and I want you to know up front, I'll make all of these slides available to our listeners. I'll give you a download site that you can do that. I'm going to reference some forms. I'll make those forms available to you. And most importantly is I'm going to make the list of references so that when you have this communication with not only your patients, with other healthcare professionals, you're able to have a conversation with them based upon some very, very significant research. So it begins with the science, and the science in terms of chiropractic care has been growing by leaps and bounds. We're gaining more and more research, moving beyond the traditional functional benefits of chiropractic care in terms of conditions like back pain, neck pain, headaches. Those things are sort of the vanilla for us. We know how to do it, and the research supports it. And moving into more quality of life parameters and how chiropractic care and spinal care impacts the quality of life. And we're actually seeing now some of the great work with Dr. Heidi Horvick out of New Zealand that is linking through these amazing PET scans the impact of posture and brain function. And these are the forefront of where chiropractic research is going and how we're able to impact global health through segmental adjusting is quite amazing. So lots of footnotes in this presentation. Again, it's designed to help you communicate confidently with your patients. So I like to say, when you sit down in a report of findings and you look at that patient sitting there in the chair across from you or in that report room with you, and you give that person your report of findings, you want to give that individual the same report that you would give if you were talking to your mom or your dad or your spouse or your child. And you want to be able to give them that report with absolute certainty so that you know that the care that you're prescribing for that patient isn't based upon what type of insurance coverage they have or don't have or think they have, but based upon science and based upon where they are in the continuum of health. You have to understand the science to be able to sit down with somebody, look them in the eyes, and very confidently give them a clinical ROF and back that up with a financial ROF, report of findings, in such a way that meshes and that you can give them those recommendations based upon certainty. And unfortunately, I hear much too often that the report of findings that chiropractors give their patients goes something like this: I'm going to see you 2 or 3 times over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll see how you're doing. Now, that type of a wishy-washy, not really certain, the patient doesn't really know. How do you know what's going to happen in 2 weeks? You don't have a crystal ball. That produces uncertainty in the patient, and it also produces uncertainty in your results. So when you're very certain, when you absolutely know the impact of poor posture, anterior translation of the head moving forward in front of the shoulders, you know the impact of that, you know what to do to correct it, you know how to measure it and what your criteria for care is, you can sit down with that patient, look them in the eyes, and give them a plan of action that is very powerful and very strong. That produces strong results, and that reinforces your certainty. The opposite is true. When you give patients that wishy-washy, well, 2 to 3 weeks of the next, 2 to 3 visits over the next 2 to 3 weeks, the patient also is going to take lame action. They're going to get out of pain and they're going to think they're done. And that's just when the healing process is beginning. And so that means that patient is going to leave with some functional deficits, some significant potential for chronicity and recurrence, because we didn't know how to deliver our report. We didn't know what plan of action to actually give and recommend to that patient. And that ends up impacting those poor results for the patient and also for our reputation. People start seeing that, hey man, people are dropping out of care, or don't go to this doctor because he's going to tell you to come forever. We need to have absolute certainty in what we recommend. So here's the posture connection. As I mentioned, posture has become one of the most overlooked aspects of good health and longevity. And there's a huge amount of research that we're going to cover in our presentation today that shows a very clear connection between poor posture and diminished longevity and diminished quality of life. So here's your first footnote from the American Journal of Pain Management. The effect of posture on health is becoming more evident. Spinal pain, headache, mood, blood pressure, pulse, lung capacity are among the functions most easily influenced by posture. These are some pretty significant items here. You know, when you get beyond pain and headaches and you start talking about blood pressure, pulse, lung capacities. You're talking about some of the most significant chronic diseases that impact health and longevity of our entire population. And to understand that there's a connection between posture and the most significant causes of death, that is eye-opening to me. So let's take that journey together. Here's my friend, Jack LaLanne, and he's a wonderful, wonderful man. Most folks don't know that Jack LaLanne was actually a chiropractor. Now, I remember the Jack LaLanne when I was a kid. He's since passed, but he wore this leotard and he had a TV show. And one of his claims to fame was that on the anniversary of his birthday at the decades, he would do an amazing feat of strength. And I remember him swimming in the Hudson River, pulling a barge just by his own swimming stroke. And he pulled big, huge tractor trailer trucks and did amazing strengths. And his great quote is, "You're only as young as your spine." He lived well into his 90s with great help. And at the end, he sort of came out of the closet about being a chiropractor and was a great Parker seminar speaker and actually became a real proponent of chiropractic. But he knew that if you lost your flexibility that young supple spine has, and you became rigid, that you would age, and that the health of your spine reflects in the overall health and vitality of your life. So let's talk a little bit about one of the most significant postural findings, and that's anterior head movement or anterior translation of the head. Now, Dr. Rene Cailliet, the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehab at University of Southern California, he says that as the head moves forward, all measures of health are reduced. I had a great conversation with my buddy Terry Yoakum on the phone. It was actually last Friday. And he was telling me about he and the great Jim Cox sitting on a panel, 2 chiros and big panel. And one of the other panelists was Dr. Rene Cailliet. And I'm like, wow, man, you actually knew the guy. And he said, yeah, he was an amazing, amazing person. There, Mackenzie was on the panel. So all these really cool people to have one of the first times chiropractic actually represented. This one, Yoakum first was writing and publishing his book on spinal radiology. So what Cailliet said is forward head posture can add up to 30 pounds of pressure on the spine. Pretty significant. For me, even more significant, it can reduce lung capacity by as much as 30%. Now, why is lung capacity so important? Well, you're going to see as we move through this presentation that this conversation about posture and longevity has a really easily communicated link to your patients, and that's oxygen. You see, when you lose the vital capacity of the lungs, you can't breathe in the oxygen that every metabolic process in your body requires. And that impacts health in tremendous, tremendous ways. So Dr. Cailliet determined the relationship of forward head posture as well as the digestive system and endorphin production. You see, as your head goes forward and we reduce our internal capacity of the thoracic cavity, all the soft stuff, all your guts and lungs and heart, your intestines, your ability to digest and eliminate, all become impacted, as well as endorphin production. That means you're more sensitive to pain. All of this because your ears are drifting in front of your shoulders. Patients need to know that. You need to be able to communicate to them, well, you know, it's not enough that your anterior head posture makes you look older, but guess what? It's making you older inside. And that's not just in the older years in life. We've just published a study of the Foundation of Chiropractic Progress on Gen Z, and that spinal pain and dysfunction begins very, very early on, impacting sleep, impacting their ability to function all the way back in youth. And so you're going to see that this is absolutely an epidemic level of concern for health across the country that chiropractors actually have the key to. This is our wheelhouse, much more than any of the other healthcare providers that can work allied with us to support care. But if we're not taking care of posture, this core major health parameter, nobody else is going to do it. So I like to talk to patients in terms that they can understand. And I love the analogy of a bowling ball. A lot of people kind of get it. I lived down in Miami, Florida, and bowling is like cool again. Bowling, when I was a kid, we used to go bowling. And now when people go bowling, there's a disco ball and they have all kinds of club kind of activity going on. But, you know, the average bowling ball weighs about 10, 12 pounds. If you remember the last time that you bowled. Imagine if you held a bowling ball in the palm of your hand, and that you started as you would as a bowler with that ball tucked into your body. You could support that 10, 12 pounds pretty easily. But as you move that head bowling ball further away out from your body while you continue to palm that ball, what do you think would happen to the muscles of the neck and spine? Well, first they'd start to ache. They'd get sore. Eventually they might develop some knots and trigger points inside of them that radiated pain up into the head and down in between the shoulders. Eventually you'd begin to lose the strength, and that muscles would fatigue and then actually fail or even injure that shoulder and arm. Well, guess what? Same exact thing happens with your head. According to Capangi in the Physiology of the Joints, and that's volume 3, for every inch, every single 1 inch that your head moves forward to the spine from your shoulders, it increases the weight of your head on your neck by 10 pounds. Now, the average person has an anterior translation of the head of 3 inches. And so add that 30 pounds, 10 pounds per each inch, to that 12 pounds that the average head weighs. And you're walking around, instead of a 12-pound head sitting directly over your shoulders, you're walking around with a 42-pound head. Now, that is something that your neck, your cervical spine, the muscles, those tiny muscles, those suboccipital muscles, remember them. They're tiny, fine little muscles in the back of your head. They're never meant to resist 42 pounds of a head against gravity. And they lose that battle, and that head continues to drift forward toward the floor. And that is a tough thing to fix if you don't get onto it early enough. On top of that, this situation is exacerbated by what everybody has right now within grasp of their hand. I promise you, if you're not watching me on this thing right now, it's tech neck. So when I see people using their smart device, very people are using it like the diagram on the left, where it should be parallel with your eyes out in front of you. Where I see most people, especially the younger folks, is they're absolutely buried, head buried in that. So beyond the 30 degrees that we're talking about in Capangi, I'm seeing this here. So that's 60. Imagine you're walking around with 60 plus 12, a 72-pound head on a person, especially somebody who's growing and developing. Their osseous structures haven't completed their development yet. These are significant, and we see it all the time. You know, the next time you look at the Facebook logo, I want you to look at it a little bit differently and think about that F in the Facebook. That's what we're doing to the generation that's coming up with these smart devices. So don't let this happen to you. Let your patients see this. Let your patients see what they're doing by adding 60 pounds of weight onto their head, how important it is to get that head up and over. I want to share a massive study with you. This is a British regional heart study. We're going back, vital capacity, heart and lungs, anterior head carriage, squashing down the soft stuff inside. Researchers in the British Regional Heart Study found that men who lost 3 centimeters of height, not a lot, that's disc height, were 64% more likely to die of a heart attack. That's more than half. 64% more likely to die of a heart attack. This was a 20-year period of a study, not a short study. And they found that the men on average lost about a centimeter and a half, 1.67 centimeters. That was associated with a 42% increase in risk of heart attacks. Now listen to me right now very strongly, even in men who had no history of cardiovascular disease. What was the connection? Listen, this is significant. Your posture impacts your emotional state. You can tell how somebody's feeling on the inside by how their posture is showing up on the outside. When somebody's depressed, head down, shoulders shrugged in, slumped forward, that's a signal of depression. They're feeling closed off. They're closing themselves off from the world. Dr. Heidi Horvick down in New Zealand will tell you, because it's depressing their frontal lobe, executive prefrontal cortex, and the executive function of the brain. So that's what she's researching right now. How amazing that as we pull that head forward, not only affects our physical state, but how we're actually thinking, communicating, and engaging with the world around us. You see the picture that I have up on the screen. That's not exactly the picture of great health. Hey, listen, here's an exercise I use with all my patients. I say yoga gurus have long said that it's impossible to be depressed with your armpits open. So wherever you are, take a moment. And I have patients, they come in, they're down, their head is down, they're thinking, they're into their phone or whatever. I'm like, hey, stop a minute. Open up those armpits. Get them up there. You can see immediately I open up the vital capacity of my chest. My corners of my mouth go up. You can't be sad with your arms up in the air in that armpits open. So I use that with patients all the time. Hey, let's get those armpits open, right? Super, super important. Let's hit the science again. Posture connected with life expectancy. Now, this was a group of scientists that was led by Dr. Deborah M. Cato, and she wanted to see if there was a correlation between a postural distortion, kyphosis, and a person's health. And what her team looked at was what you might consider to be the biggest health problem of all, and that would be death, right? So they asked this question, hypothesis. Was there a correlation between a person having hyperkyphosis, that bent over in between the shoulder blades, and having a decreased life expectancy? So what do you think Dr. Cato found? Well, it's pretty significant. She reported in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society. Notice I'm giving you the citations for all these, because I want you to know when you talk with these about this with your patients, I want you to know this wasn't printed in People magazine, okay? These were printed in peer-reviewed, published journals that are some of the most respected journals in healthcare. And she reported, her group did, that people with hyperkyphosis were 2 times more likely to die from pulmonary causes. Once again, the heart, the lungs, breathing it in, 2.4 times more likely to die from cardiovascular problems than those without poor posture. This is serious stuff, folks. This is what you're doing every day with your patients in your practice. And you're delivering that chiropractic adjustment, and you're correcting their cervical lordosis, and you're getting those ears back over the shoulders, and you're stretching the tight muscles, and you're strengthening the weak muscles, and you're teaching them proprioceptive exercises so that they can lock in the new body position in space, right? This is what you do as a chiropractor every single day. And this is the impact that you're having on your patients. You got to tell them this. You got to tell them, let them know, hey, too much sitting has actually been shown to shorten your life. According to a study from the American Cancer Society, ever heard of them? The amount of time spent sitting can increase your risk of death. That's for sure. This was, again, one of the largest studies ever done. They studied 127,000 people over 21 years. These are significant studies that I'm sharing with you. And the results showed that prolonged periods of sitting have a negative influence on key metabolic factors like triglycerides, HDL lipoprotein cholesterol, and a number of other biomarkers of obesity and other chronic disease. These chronic diseases that happen over a lifetime actually begin in the structure. I wonder how they got the guy to stand still to take that, or sit still to take that x-ray. To live a long, active, and energetic life, there are few things that matter more than posture. And as chiropractors, we know that. Here's a great quote from Thomas Myers, and he's the author of Anatomy Trains. Listen to this. This is key. This is it, man. This is it. Movement becomes habit. Habit becomes posture. Posture becomes structure. So how you move during the day, your habits of holding your head in front of your shoulders eventually becomes ingrained into your body, into your muscles, into your brain as your posture. Over time, that posture solidifies. The body attempts to correct postural dysfunction and distortion by laying down calcium. Body doesn't want that head to go forward, so it starts throwing out bone spurs to try to stabilize that joint. And as you know, if you've studied phases of spinal degeneration, is that once that disc atrophies, once those spinal structures become calcified and those bone spurs come, there's not anything that anyone can do about it. So we don't want to wait till it gets to be structure. We want to get way in front of it, and we want to attack the problem. Well, it's still a habit, and good habits produce healthy posture and healthy structure. So as chiropractors, not only is it your job to correct spinal dysfunction, but it's also to help ingrain and teach and coach your patients in healthy habits, in healthy posture, healthy movement, and supporting the posture over time that'll result in a healthy structure. Listen, this thing came out June 18th, 2020. After a 5-year follow-up, and this was in JAMA Oncology, Association of Sedentary Behavior with Cancer Mortality in Middle-Aged and Older U.S. Results. It's a 5-year follow-up. Researchers found that sedentary people had an 82% higher risk of dying from cancer. So why? Why are we seeing this again and again in all of the surveys that I'm showing you, research that I'm showing you? chronic disease, poor posture, lack of movement, and this chronic disease? Well, I'll tell you why. It's about oxygen. Oxygen, oxygen. When you don't get in the oxygen that you're supposed to into your body, your blood actually becomes acidic. That acidic blood causes an inflammatory response in the body. That inflammatory response is chronic inflammation. Look, acute inflammation is painful, but it's the beginning of the healing cascade. Without acute inflammation, you can't have healing. The problem is with chronic prolonged inflammation. There's a lot of research showing that chronic inflammation is at the root cause of all of these chronic metabolic diseases, from diabetes to cancer to pulmonary and cardiovascular disorders. It's about getting the oxygen in and how important that is. Listen, how many folks knew work from home, right? WFH as an acronym before we all got into quarantining and lockdown. A lot of folks who are sitting at a desk 8+ hours a day without getting up and moving. How significant that is. So I want to give you some postural assessments. The first one I'm going to give you is patient facing, and it's called a 7-step posture check. And we use this in all of our community outreach presentations. If you do videos, this is a great, what I'm doing right now, this type of an educational workshop, webinar, online seminar to your patients is essential. This is a great time for you to use video to reach your patients. Nothing magic about it. We're on Zoom, hit the record button, and you've got something that you can put up on your YouTube channel that you can get out to your patients when they might not be able to come into your office and sit down for a lecture together, but you can reach tons of people more. Your reach is much greater online. So that 7-step posture check, it gets the audience moving. It also provides them with tangible evidence of their own postural distortions. They can take it home and share it with their friends and family. We print it out, we give it to them, as a PDF download. This is what it looks like. There's 7 steps that we check. In the first column, if you're perfect, you get 10 points. If you're less than perfect, 5 points. If you're really bad, you get 0 points. And a perfect score, right? 60 or less. If you score 60 or less, it's an indicator that you may have a postural distortion that could be on the way to becoming structural pain. So we have people partner up, they work with each other, and they check head height. Is it right over the shoulders from behind? Do we have shoulder tilt? Is one shoulder higher than the other when seen from behind? Same with the hips. We look for anterior movement of the head over the spine. We look for kyphosis in the upper back and a greater display of kyphosis, and the opposite, the sway back in the lower back. Do we have an exaggerated lordosis in that lower back? And then we check the shoes too, by the way. We look for even wear on the shoes, uneven wear, or really uneven wear. This is a great, easy way that patients can check each other, right? Super, super easy to do. You want to up that and make it a little high tech? I love posture apps. There's a bunch of them that are available in the Google store and your Apple store. This one is called Posture Screen. It does some great assessments. You have it in the practice right on an iPad. You can snap it. It actually draws the lines for you as well. Patients, there's a patient interface so that they can take it home on their phone and send you the pictures of their family and co-workers, and we can see some great stuff. Look at this. We're looking at squat position, and it's analyzing our ability to squat. Wonderful, wonderful tool to have. Here's a more doctor-facing way to assess posture and apply the clinical science of chiropractic to practice. And it was initiated, or how would I say, it was discovered by Dr. Vladimir Yanda. And this is a photo of Dr. Yanda. He's passed away. I got to know Dr. Yanda as a chiropractic student and coming up studying for my diplomate in rehab coursework. And Yanda was an amazing guy. So he was the posture guru. And yet when you met him, he came into the lecture hall with this pendulous abdomen. I mean, this gut out here and this kind of a duck walk, kind of waddling sort of a gait. And it was like, what's going on here? I mean, how is this guy the posture guru of all times? And what I learned was that Dr. Yanda suffered from polio as a child. And from the things that I'm going to teach you right now that he learned and innovated and developed, he was actually able to walk without using arm braces or metal braces on his legs. And so that gait was actually a badge of honor and not something that was strange or unusual. He published more than 16 books and 200 papers, and his theories were coalesced around crossed syndromes. Back in '79, he defined it. But what he taught chiropractors, taught physical therapists, chiropractors, taught us all, is that there is a sensorimotor system. So not just the muscular system and the sensory system, kind of the way we study them independently, but they were inseparable. They can't be functionally divided. And he called it the sensorimotor system. And he placed a great emphasis on the importance of proper proprioception, body positioning in space, having proper balance, and how key that was. Yanda stated that there were specific developmental, actually neurodevelopmental locomotor patterns, how we got from A to B. And these two systems interplayed continuously through life. The tonic muscle system, that are the group of muscles that are more prone to be tight and harbor trigger points and need to be stretched. And the phasic muscle system that was more prone to be weakened or inhibited. And that once those tight tonic muscles were stretched, that we could then, only then, address muscle weakness, right? That this synchronous ballet together of these two systems through a co-activation allowed posture, gait, and coordinated movement. And when they were out of balance, that very specific patterns became obvious to a trained observer. So he observed an upper crossed syndrome in the upper body, the pattern of tight tonic muscle that would inhibit on the other side of the body, the other side of the joint, and weaken or inhibit the phasic muscles. So here's a typical postural presentation for an upper crossed syndrome. Anterior head, right? We've got the upper cervical spine extended, lower cervical spine flexed. We have a raising of the shoulders toward the ears and the shoulders coming forward. So how many of your patients present with this postural presentation? Well, just about all of them. So what he saw was tight upper trap and levator scap. How many of your patients have that? All of them, right? Inhibited the muscles on the opposite side, and that was the deep neck flexors. So what's important about the deep neck flexors is, well, they maintain the cervical lordosis. You know, it's very interesting if you have a patient who has a car accident, hyperextension, hyperflexion, hyperextension injury, in the hyperextension phase, those flexor muscles, deep neck flexors, get blown out. And so the x-ray or the radiographic presentation of somebody with weak, deep neck flexors is military neck. They lose the anterior pull of the deep neck flexor. So it's absolutely essential for us to first stretch the tightened upper traps and deep neck and levator scaps, and then we can work on strengthening cervical flexion, only in that order. Same thing down as we move down the body, the same crisscross pattern develop. Tight pecs, shoulders rolled forward, tight SCM. Remember, it's the SCM that extends the upper cervical spine, flexes the lower cervical spine. Inhibited the muscles on the opposite side, middle trap, lower trap, and the serratus anterior, right? That weakened serratus anterior that presents itself as winging of the scapula. Those serratus anterior can't keep the scapula pinned to the thoracic cage. And so this upper cross syndrome absolutely must be addressed. The tightened muscles stretched first, and then the weakened muscles strengthened afterwards. Otherwise, we're going to have a repeating habit that becomes posture, that becomes structure. Lower body, lower crossed syndrome. Tight erector spinae in the thoracolumbar spine. How many people have that? It's from sitting. Those E-spinae muscles in the back being under constant tension as you're sitting all day long inhibit all of the support of your core. The spine is supported by those abdominal muscles. If those abs are inhibited or in a weakened state because the tight extensor muscles on the other side of the body are inhibiting them or turning them off, shutting them down. You could do ab crunches all day long. If you don't stretch those back extensor muscles first, this muscle dysfunction is going to continue. Same thing, opposite side of the body, rectus femoris iliopsoas. How many of your patients do you think have tight psoas muscle? All of them. What does that do? It turns off the muscles on the other side of the body, and that's the glutes. Now, the gluteal muscles are absolutely essential. They provide you with support when you're standing unilaterally, one leg. So when are you standing unilaterally? Every time you take a walk, every time in the swing phase of gait, you're standing on one leg. If we don't have good support in those glute muscles, we're going to have dysfunction and degeneration at those lower back joints because of that. So upper and lower cross syndrome, thanks to Dr. Vladimir Yanda. We spoke about oxygen and how key oxygen is. It's really important. You better believe it is. As I mentioned, every single function of your body is regulated by oxygen. It has to be replaced at every single moment because 90% of your metabolic function of your body relies on that. Oxygen energizes your cells so that they can metabolize and regenerate. Your body uses oxygen to metabolize food, eliminate toxins and waste through oxidation. And absolutely, most importantly, your brain needs oxygen every single second to process information. Oxygen is the key. So you should have metrics you measure in your patient's posture. You can use an app. You can use the plumb line. Absolutely fine. How do you measure oxygen and the body's ability to oxygenate? Well, there's a few ways that you can do it really, really easily in your practice. One of them you probably haven't done since chiropractic college. Get out your tape measure and measure chest expansion. It's that easy. The difference between maximum inspiration and maximal force expiration is measured at the fourth intercostal space, just below the breasts in females, and it's normally 2 to 5 inches of chest expansion. It's a measure of thoracic mobility and breathing. absolutely, docs, please make chest expansion one of your criteria for care. Normal chest expansion. So when I'm sitting there talking with somebody and I'm giving them that report of findings with certainty, I want to know how many inches are there, is their ears in front of their head? What does their posture look like? We know exactly numerically where it should be and the impact that it has if it doesn't. Again, I'm a tech geek. I love pulse oximetry. This little pulse oximeter that you see on the screen fits on the tip of the first phalange of your first index finger. A tiny little thing, and it's amazing. It measures oxygen level in the blood, that's SpO2, and heart rate. So normal SpO2, or oxygen level in the blood, should be 95 to 100%. You see the patient up here is 98%. Fantastic. Normal heart rate, 50 to 70 BPM, beats per minute. See, this person's at 72. They're in great shape. The low blood oxygen results in acidosis. That acidosis results in cellular destruction, chronic inflammation, and disease. So I absolutely would recommend having pulse oximetry. I actually put this pulse oximeter on people's finger before the adjustment. Give them the adjustment, and you see their SpO2 go up and their heart rate come down right there, right on the spot. It's really cool. Now you can get a little more sophisticated pulse oximeter that measures one more thing, and that's PI, or perfusion index. It's how well does your body move oxygen from the core to the periphery. That's called vasomotor tone. How well do we get to mobilize the blood in our body? If you remember, flight, fright response, right? If we're under stress, if we're having the fight or flight response, body pulls the blood to the core, right? To protect our vital organs and brain. When we're relaxed, the blood flows more easily to the periphery. So this vasomotor readiness of the peripheral nervous system to comply with need breaks down with stress. So normal perfusion index, you see up here, this person's 2.5. Perfusion index is between 0 and 10. So this is an amazing thing. I can remember testing perfusion index, and I learned this from Dr. Francis Murphy, by the way, who he's the guy in the movie Doctored who does fix his frozen shoulder with one adjustment. And he learned, because that was the vagus nerve being impinged upon as it exited the jugular foramen underneath by the occiput. Beautiful occipital adjustment. And what he showed me, we were actually doing a seminar together. We had a young lady came up, and she was a fitness instructor. I don't know what her body fat was, but it was almost not there. And absolutely just toned, but was suffering from massive migraine headaches, debilitating migraine headaches. We checked her PI, and she was at 0.0 something. It was so low, it was amazing that she was breathing at all. So her body was actually suffocating, and we were able to help her. Dr. Murphy was able to help her by giving her the OTZ adjustment. So measuring PI is a great thing. Listen, these things are available. Pulse oximeters, you get them from Script Pesco, get them from Meyer, you get them on Amazon actually, but get a good one. Have one that does PI in your practice, perfusion index. It's a wonderful thing to do. So going to wrap. I want to share with you my final study, and this was a national health interview survey published in 2017, came out 2019 actually, last year. And these are the reasons that patients reported consulting a chiropractor. First ones are not surprising. 43.3% went to a chiropractor for general wellness or disease prevention. Okay. 16.3% went to improve their energy. That's interesting. 15.4% went to improve athletic or sports performance. 63% for back pain, 30% for neck pain are the top specific reasons people sought chiropractic care. Now let's start getting into the cool stuff. 66.9% of the patients who sought chiropractic care said it helped them to improve their overall health and made them feel better. That's not just for pain relief, guys. That's way beyond neck pain and back pain. 42% of the people who sought chiropractic care slept better. Sleep apnea is a major problem right now. One of the biggest prescribed drugs that are out there are sleep drugs, right? Ativan and all those drugs that people sleep with. 40% of people reported that chiropractic helped them to reduce stress or help them to relax, right? How many people are taking Valium or Prozac because they can't relax, right? I'm seeing right now in the practices that we coach in Breakthrough Coaching, more new patients coming into chiropractic practices than ever before. Now, we happen to be, if you didn't notice, in the middle of a health pandemic right now. And yet people are seeking out chiropractic care in numbers greater than ever. And I'm going to tell you why, because people are under more stress than ever before. And the care that you can deliver can impact their health in ways that nothing else that they can get out there. Look at this. 1/3 of the patients who sought chiropractic care said it gave them a sense of control over their health. Right now, when people feel absolutely out of control about health, how great it is that your chiropractic care can give them a greater sense of health. 27%, again, almost 1/3, reported chiropractic helped them to feel better emotionally. And look at this, almost 40%, 39% reported that chiropractic care made it easier for them to help to cope with other health problems. Guys, gals, if you're listening to me, this is what chiropractic is all about. This is why you became a chiropractor. This is the information I want you to share when you deliver your report of findings. The chiropractic care, I understand maybe back pain or neck pain or headaches brought you in, but guess what? Chiropractic care is about much more than that, right? That health is a process that develops over time. It's not bad health or good health isn't something that strikes you like lightning out of the blue. No, it's a process that develops over time. Healthy habits, healthy posture, healthy structure over time. So I'm going to give you some stuff here. Told you there'd be free stuff. Free is always good. So you're going to text the word PLAT-SYS for Platinum Systems, Platinum System, PLAT-SYS 123 to the number 33444. I'm going to send you these notes, so don't worry if you don't get it down, but take a photo of your screen right now. And if you don't know how to text a code to a number, ask your 16-year-old when they finished homeschooling today, and they'll show you how to do it. So PLAT-SYS 123 to 33444. I'm just joking, by the way. And I'm going to give you the rehab therapy eval form. That's the upper lower cross syndromes. It helps you do the analysis, know what muscles facilitated need to be stretched, what inhibited muscles need to be strengthened. I'm going to send you you saw the footnotes throughout this presentation. If you were watching, I'm going to send you the references, and then I've printed out the notes. So you'll actually have the slides from this presentation, because I want you to get really conversant with this stuff so that when you go in to deal with your stuff that you have to deal with in practice and all the stuff that everybody's dealing with the world right now, you can feel proud. You can be certain that what you're doing makes a tremendous difference in the lives of your patients that you just can't get anywhere else. So Mark Lewis, I've told you before, my middle name is Lewis also. So Mark Lewis Sanna here on my end, thanking the team at Platinum System for bringing us together, for the great work that you do to help chiropractors have more efficient running their practice, less stress running their practice, and the beautiful system that you've developed over the years. And I love the support that you give our profession. And I thank you for the support you give our breakthrough coaching members as well. Folks, Platinum System is the real thing. And I can tell you that after 20 years in the business, that having the right tools is absolutely essential in being successful in practice, and that Platinum System is there to help you. So, hey, Mark, thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Mark. That was some great information there. Appreciate you sharing that with our clients and any guests they might have come in there. And if you're not using posture in your practice, you're missing half the boat. You know, I know guys are doing Zoom meetings right now with their patients and getting that great information out. I think you've given some great tools there. We really appreciate that. And I think I've been looking on Facebook. You've got a seminar coming up here pretty soon, don't you? You doing a webinar yourself?
Well, thank you so much. Absolutely. And I invite you all to come. The seminar is free. It's a beautiful event. It's September 19th and 20th. It's online. Awesome. And we have some amazing speakers. I know, Mark, you're one of them. And we got some really super folks. I know Alicia Yoakum is doing a session for me, and Dr. Mitch Malley and Fab Mancini and Sherry McAllister from the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. The seminar starts at 7 Eastern and runs till 11 in the evening, both days, Saturday and Sunday. You can come in and watch it live, or you can binge watch it later like Netflix. Great way to find us. It's the Breakthrough Coaching Virtual Summit. And you can find out on our Facebook page. Take a look for Breakthrough Coaching, resources for chiropractic practices on Facebook. Lots of data there for you. And you can also have a free invite to the session. And I know, Mark, you're going to invite your folks to come and join us. It'll be a lot of fun, and there'll be a lot of great information to help you grow and build your practice.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, looking forward to being there, and wish we could do it live, but hopefully next year everything will be great. So.
Amen.
All right. Well, thanks again for your time. Have a great rest of your day, and thank everybody for joining us today. And this will be online later for you to review. So signing off from Platinum Talks. This is Mark Lewis. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.